The college football show on the Coach T podcast, presented by Turner Sports Training, TST.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Hey. You know what time it is? Yeah. You know what time it is?
Watching a master at work.
Some people are probably like, what time is it? You know what time it is.
It's showtime.
Yo, what's going on? This is a mic check by your boy, Coach T. We are on the Coach T College Football Show with Mook. Mook, for the people out there, how are you doing?
Doing awesome, man. Doing really good. It's another busy day in the life of a dad, coach, and husband, right?
Yep, a beautiful day in the neighborhood. That's what I like to call it. So
that's right.
Hey, so before we get into the mayhem that happened at Texas this past weekend with Oklahoma and Texas in that battle, before we get into Alabama getting upset at Texas A&M, a lot happened in Texas this week. Before we get to Michigan's escape of an upset versus Rutgers, before we get into that and all the other games, I want to make sure we stress that this show was presented by the TST Network. You can also find our NFL show, which airs weekly during the NFL season. That's with Kyle and Hicks. And then soon enough, once the schedule clears up, we'll begin the NBA show as well. So we're going to be working over here. So you guys get very comfortable with listening to us. And of course, my main man, we got Mook here. And I know you said everything is going well. So I say we get the show on the road.
We can do it, man. Let's go.
All right. So I will say, I'm probably not as prepared as I should be. But I'm excited to start this show. And I'm excited to just go off of my gut feeling, let you know how I feel about these teams. I saw enough this weekend to kind of show me who are the contenders and who are the pretenders. And I know, Mook, I'm probably speaking for you on that. It feels like this season is going fast, but the games we've had, it's made it well worth it. So, Mook, what are your feelings on the early part of the season, halfway through the year?
Oh, man. I mean, you know, what a way to kind of hit that midpoint this week with all the craziness that happened there. Man, you know, there's still a lot of teams out there that are sitting with a really pretty record but haven't got the meat of their schedule. And then there's teams like Iowa who have really, for Big Ten standards, a pretty easy run the rest of the way, all things considered. They got through their biggest tests. So, you know, they're ranked number 2 in the AP. Are they the number 2 team? I don't know, but they may not lose again until the Big Ten championship. So the teams like that, there's a bunch of teams like that out there, I think, right now that are just kind of, you know, are they going to break through or are they kind of maybe a little bit over, hyped in some ways?
Right? Are they gonna walk the walk or just talk the talk?
Yeah, I mean, are they gonna ascend to that next level, or are they gonna drop those games that, you know, traditionally they do, 1 or 2, you know, yet to come? So we'll see. But there's a bunch of teams like that.
Yeah, there are a couple teams like that. Iowa, I know, both made at least our last week what do we call that? Sorry, I always want to call it power rankings. Oh, it is a power rankings. I always wanted to call it the Power 5, but it's a power rankings. But it deals with a lot of our Power 5 schools. Big Ten now has, first time in AP history, the Big Ten has 5 of the top 10 teams are ranked within the top 10. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. 5 of the top 10 teams are Big Ten teams. So that goes to show you that, look, it may not be the SEC, but it's right there when we talk about the Big Ten Conference and all that's been done. So what's been your take on the Big Ten Conference and kind of extend that out to maybe a conference or two where maybe you're not as impressed with what they're doing? I got my eyes on the ACC.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, with the Big Ten Conference, I was listening to a former Big Ten coach. He's a former Notre Dame player, but he was a line coach at Iowa and at Nebraska, and he was kind of talking about the Big Ten right now. And one of the points he made, which I totally agree with, is like he said this is the best defensive conference that he's seen in 20 years out of the Big Ten. Offensive, not so much. Defensive, though, I mean, these teams are playing really good defense. And, as you kind of juxtapose that against some of the SEC teams that are putting up points and, but I mean, Ole Miss and Arkansas are still scoring as we speak. I mean, they're just lighting up the scoreboards and not playing as well as defenses they have in the past. So when we start getting into not just the playoff talk, but the bowl games and stuff, where is that? What's that going to look like when these types of teams clash? And you're right. The ACC. Who's going to win that? Who wants it? I mean, is it NC State? Is that who now all of a sudden is our, cream of the crop? I don't know. I don't know who it is out there. So there's a lot to be determined. Wake Forest says we still haven't lost yet. Yeah, and
that was one of the better games this weekend. Quiet as kept.
Yeah, that was. And we both had that little asterisk by it, saying that the Carrier Dome's a tough place to go and win, and it paid, and it showed out that way.
It definitely showed that, and that's why you come here, man. And we're going to tell you those little nuggets that make you think a little bit. And I mean, Syracuse had every opportunity to win that game, and then Wake Forest had what you hardly ever see in a football game. They had a walk-off.
Yeah,
like playoff baseball. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hit that double to round your guy. But he hit number 9. I'm so bad with the names, but number 9 for Wake Forest caught a corner route over the Syracuse defender. And, I mean, overtime, they were down 3. Okay, what's his name?
A.T. Perry is his name.
A.T. Perry. I like that.
A.T. Perry, yeah.
Okay, and what's the quarterback's name? Sam?
That one's slipping my mind.
Hartman.
Yeah, that's it. Hartman, yeah.
Sam Hartman. Yep. Yeah. Look at you. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. You got me started with the Sam. So, yes, I mean, that was just one of the many games. Probably the best game that I saw. And, look, I know each week we kind of do a traditional segment. I say we kind of go off the script.
Yeah.
This episode. So, just generally speaking, the best game for me was the Alabama and the Texas A&M game. Post game, after the huge upset by Texas A&M, which I'll be frank, last week, if you rewind the tape, you hear me talking about Alabama going to put a whooping on Texas A&M. Texas A&M told me, "Hey, Coach T, watch what you say."
Yeah,
and they showed up in a big way. And do they have the most amount of fans in college football? I know we talked about the big house, but it felt like there were 200,000 fans at Texas A&M in College Station. That was an absolute crazy thing.
The 12th man, they call it there. Talk to one of your guys, Coach Scoot. He spent some time at A&M. He'll tell you about the College Station, how wild it is there.
Shout out, man, Scoot.
It is wild when they talk about the rafter or the whole place shaking. When they get wild in there. That's it's one of the great places to have a tight football game is at College Station.
What else impressed you in week 6 of college football?
Oh man, I mean, you could go right down that line. Those games early on, I mean, flipping back and forth between the Red River shootout with Oklahoma and Texas, and then the Ole Miss and Arkansas. I mean, just every time I thought Ole Miss was going to pull away, Arkansas answered. And they came back and God bless Sam Pittman for saying, you know what, I don't know how we got to get out of here before the NFL starts tomorrow. So let's go ahead and go for 2 right now. And
hey, that's my hang 'em low moment of the week right there. That's where Coach Pittman said, you know what, I'm gonna let it all hang out. I'm gonna let them hang low. I'm going for 2 this time. I'm not playing with y'all anymore. Look, it's going to end on this play. Win, lose, or draw. We're out of here. We're out of this building.
Yeah, Sam, he's not a young man. He's got to get home and have his dinner and get to bed. So
yeah. Get his TV dinner, man. You know what I mean? Get his ham sandwich like Coach O and call it a night. Speaking of Coach O, you called it last week as well. A must win for both of those teams. And LSU was probably the more of the situation of must win, and they did not get it done. I'm not into the gossip about, Coach O losing his job and anything like that. I don't believe that should happen. The man just won a national title. It felt like 2 weeks ago, with Joe Burrow and that crew. So I don't know what's going to happen there, but you got to have stability. This is an opportunity for a school like LSU to show, we're not just going to, when we feel the outside pressure, we're not just going to can a coach when we know he can be a national title winning coach, because that's what he was, just a couple of years ago. So how do you feel about LSU and kind of their up and down roller coaster year they've had thus far?
Well, I got to be honest with you. Like I'm personally, I'm a fan of Ed Orgeron. That said, there's always been kind of a knock on him that he's more of a coordinator position type coach more than a CEO. I don't know enough about the ins and outs inside, what happens in Baton Rouge, but I do know that there is just tons and tons and tons of talent in the walls there at at LSU, and there's even more of it in the deep South where they pluck those kids from. And if he's not winning, and if they don't see that turning around, and and some of the other teams like the Ole Miss stepping up, getting better, maybe they feel like it is time to cut their losses if it doesn't turn around. And I don't honestly see it turning around this season for him.
You think he's out of here before the season ends, or immediately after the season ends?
I think he'll make it out, but I don't know. I don't think he'll be there past Black Friday, because that's kind of the
when I see you on the other side of the door.
I do like Ed Orgeron, but I mean, it doesn't feel like
I'm gonna go home and eat a ham sandwich.
Yeah.
Is that what you're thinking?
yeah.
I'm gonna go home. They fire me. Hey, I'm gonna go home and just eat a ham sandwich.
I'm gonna go over there and see about a ham sandwich. Yep, that's it, man.
Hey, shout out to LSU in general, man. That's always been one of my favorite schools. I affectionately call them LSU, LASU, LSU. The Louisiana State University, man. I've always loved them. So, so I mean that's that on that situation. Let's talk about the game. The game.
I mean, just I'll tell you what. You look at Jimbo Fisher, and I know he was at the boosters thing, before the season, talking about we're gonna whoop Alabama's A, and all this and that, and just to whoop up the boosters. Well, I think coming into the season, you saw A&M as a top ranked team, and then then they kind of hit the skids. They
were in both of our and I vow not to cut you off this episode. I'm sorry about that, buddy. I don't mean it.
No, not at all, man.
But I will say is they were within each of our power ranking top 5 for at least a couple weeks on end. So and then everything went sour, and then you have this game, this performance. So just talk about how you think Alabama would slow down by Texas A&M, and talk about that quarterback too. What a gamer, man! Caldago, right? Is that his name?
Yeah.
I remember his name. He's a tough player.
I think that he's been a little bit embattled, and to see him kind of rise up to the challenge and on the biggest stage was really kind of something special. I think that in general we've been kind of waiting to see A&M's offense, show us something, and I think with Spiller, he had some good runs for him too, that and it kind of goes back to what we talked about before, though, about Alabama not having that calling card defense that they've had in the past, and it kind of bit them in this one. Credit to Alabama for coming back and then taking the lead, but wow, man, you talk about ice water the veins over there. And man, I don't know how you don't call that the best game of the week. The way that they they took down the giant, man. They took down Goliath.
Yep. David slung his slingshot and knocked him down, man, right between the eyes, man. And that was what Texas A&M did to Alabama, and what could have easily been named also the game of the week: Oklahoma, Texas.
Yeah.
Party at Bedlam. What do they call that?
Oh, that's the Red River Shootout. Yeah, that's the Red River.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Red River.
I was confused those. But yeah, Red River Shootout.
Yeah.
It was a shootout, over 100 points scored. Talk about the performance of the backup quarterback for Oklahoma. I think it's Caleb Williams.
Yeah, Caleb Williams. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Shout out to you, young man.
Yeah. So, and I actually put Lincoln Riley as my coach of the week, just for the fact that he had the stones to set Spencer Rattler down and bring in Caleb Williams, who all he did was lead the biggest comeback in Red River rivalry history. They've never been down that much and came back and got a win. And what a way to do it.
I'm thinking when it's close to halftime, it's almost a 4-score game. I'm like, oh, it's a wrap. It's over. Texas got them. And that's one of the games that we called last week in terms of Texas can win that matchup. It was an even matchup from the start for me. I never felt like Oklahoma was. I mean, the number was tight, the line was tight, but in terms of just comparison on-field play, I never felt like Oklahoma was, miles ahead of Texas. And this is where it should be in this type of matchup. This is actually what I am used to coming up as a college football fan. One of my favorite players ever played at Texas, UT, and that's Ricky Williams. Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember that epic. I think his last run, 63-yard run for go over 2,000 yards in college. It's just, I remember that. He looked so cold too, man. He had the white spat. He was always so strong, man. He could fly, he could run you over, he could do everything. So a lot of guys know about Ricky Williams, but when you actually saw him play in college, man, you saw how special he actually was. But now you have Texas, who to me had every reason to win that game. Kind of gave it up late, and again, shout out to Caleb Williams of Oklahoma. Now Oklahoma's on the road. They're back home. They're number 4 now in the AP top 10, and they face TCU at home. And then for who are we looking for? Texas. So Texas now plays my team, Oklahoma State, at home. Yeah. Texas, they are actually the underdogs to the Oklahoma State Pokes. And over under 60 points there. So I'm actually surprised by that. Texas at home after what should have been a win over Oklahoma is now an underdog back at home this week. I don't understand that. What are your thoughts on how that game will unfold?
Yeah, well, I actually was looking at that before, for making our picks, and I was, I'm like, well, this is going to be a very interesting game to see where, what is Texas now? What are they with Sarkisian? Are they a team that can bounce back after something like that? My personal opinion is that, although they lost that game, I think that in some ways they put themselves back up on, the map of, hey man, we are Texas and we're capable of winning these games. Now that said, Oklahoma State, they play some defense there, and Oklahoma wasn't playing very much defense in that, nor was Texas. I think it's going to be very interesting. My heart tells me that, I guess my heart says that Sark's going to have him ready to go. My brain kind of tells me, man, that's tough after a rivalry game to that you just let slip away to be ready to go that next week. But I don't know. I do like Texas in it. I think that they got something with, Casey Thompson and, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, that is a game that I have circled on my calendar. Again, I talk about Oklahoma State. I feel like I've been rooting for them all year. They went from an unranked team to now number 12 in the AP. And Texas, like you mentioned it, coming off of what, is an emotional game, an emotional loss at home, and now you got to come back, the next week and play a top 25 team. It's hard to get up for a second game like that in only 7 days. I see why Oklahoma State's the favorite. This is honestly, for me, this is a statement game for Texas because they get an opportunity to either fan the fire and the naysayers who are not big on Texas, feel like they're overrated, feel like they're going to have a hard time in the SEC. They get a chance to, prove those guys right. On the other hand, if Texas is able to handle business at home as they should, as a top 25 year in and year out program should, they get that done. So the ball is in the metaphorical ball is in the hands of Sarkisian and that Texas staff and that Texas program as a whole. By the way, Xavier Worthy for Texas.
Yeah.
Is he a true freshman or a redshirt freshman? I guess it really doesn't matter what he is because that boy can fly. He can go. The first play of the game last week against Oklahoma, number 8, Xavier Worthy took the first pass, first completed pass that they had in the game and took it, 70 yards. And the boy was flying. He could roll, man. And that's the type of speed that, you expect from a school like Texas. Now they're able to implement it and use it. I'm excited about both these programs. I always say I'm rooting for Sarkisian and one of those coaches that I like. Another coach that I like, Mel Tucker at Michigan State and what he's doing there. Talk about Kenneth Walker III, our guy who is just, I love him in green because he's money green to me, man. He's all money green. So talk about Kenneth Walker III.
Well, I mean, you talk about a guy that, like, how did he get out of, Wake Forest? How did they let him go? How did he end up?
Hey, they're undefeated, so maybe.
I mean,
right?
I don't believe that they have his caliber at running back, but yeah, I mean, maybe they knew something. But all you can say about him is he's a truck, man. He just keeps moving forward. Man, he's only, other than the Nebraska game, he's done what he wants to do. So you have to have a pretty physical defense to slow him down and to stop him. And IU is struggling offensively, but I feel like that maybe they can slow him down a little bit. I don't think this is going to be an ugly game. I think it might be an ugly game, but I don't think it's going to be a Michigan State steamroll in this one. I still have to see a little bit more from Michigan State. I need to see them against Michigan. I need to see them against Ohio State. Their first physical test was Nebraska, and they probably shouldn't have won the game, but they did. And now, Indiana, they can bring some defense. They just don't have any offense, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's the same old story with Indiana in terms of good on one side of the ball or halfway decent, 1 week on one side of the ball, then the other side they just don't produce. And, coming into the year, I was a little afraid that Indiana would be overhyped. It's one thing to go from the predator to the actual prey.
Right.
Or is that the other way around?
You know what? It's basically, man, to be
going from on top,
the hunter,
going from the bottom to being on top. Okay,
going
bottom
from feeder
the hunt to the hunter. Yes, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna cut that out, by the way.
No,
So with that being said,
Yeah.
Indiana, you don't know what you're going to get from them. And I cannot
Right.
trust them in this matchup. And Michigan State has won 10 of the last 12 games between these two teams.
Yeah.
And the total typically goes over in those games. I don't see how Indiana can actually score enough to compete with Michigan State. I feel like we had the same type of game for the last couple of weeks with this Spartans team.
Yeah.
We talk about when they played Rutgers, or when they played, who did they play before that? They played Nebraska. These type of games where, you're questioning whether or not they have enough in the tank to actually get it done. And like I said, one of my favorite coaches this year is Mel Tucker, and the way he's done. I feel like he's instilled the toughness you expect from a really good Michigan State team. And Indiana is right now the total opposite of what you would expect from a good Big Ten team. So with that being said, I got to go with Michigan State. And 5 is the number. I think they cover that as well. We talked about Texas A&M. They now play Missouri on the road. They're 9-point favorites there. Florida, they are 10.5-point favorites at LSU. Kind of going down the list. Actually, Friday night, we begin with California at number 9, Oregon. Oregon, they are 13.5-point favorites there. Let's talk about the West Coast. The left coast, the side of the U.S. where it's often forgot about, but we try to keep it strong over here on the Midwest. So shout out to the West Coast from the Midwest. What team in the West actually gives you a sense that, hey, maybe they can actually be a contender? Oregon is supposed to be that. They had their upset loss. They kind of got their loss in quote unquote early, but they also got a huge upset win against Ohio State early in the year.
Right.
Ohio State looks totally awesome right now. So my question is twofold. Do you think Oregon is a team that is a contender, in the Final Four, things like that? As well as, if they're not, is there anywhere else on the West Coast, another team that you actually see them as a contender?
I really don't see anybody else outside of them as a contender. And I think that loss to Stanford really is crushing because of the fact that the kind of volatility in the ups and downs of everything in the, Pac-12, out West it's just, ad nauseum. We talk about it week to week. I mean, you just don't know what's going to happen. I don't think that there's another team besides Oregon that has a chance from the Pac-12 to steal a spot into the playoff, and I don't know that they'll have the teams left to beat to get them there. Short, no, I don't see it.
Yeah, and a lot of teams flamed out on the West Coast that we've hit on a bunch of times. I'm looking at you, Washington. I'm looking at you, Utah.
Right.
Another team on the West Coast that I don't know about on the grand scheme, on the national scale, can get to the Final Four, but another team on the West Coast that looks good is Arizona State. They are 1-point favorites at the aforementioned Utah, in Utah. Let's just run down the games. We only got about 10 more minutes. So let's just have quick winners and what you think is going to happen in the game. Talked about the Arizona State at Utah. What are your thoughts on that game? Pick a quick winner.
Yeah, I didn't see the spread. I definitely think that at this point in the season, Arizona State's the more talented team. I don't know, this feels like a scary game for them in Salt Lake City. We're going to see if they're contenders. I think they're going to have a really tough time, but I'm going to take Arizona State by the slightest of margins.
Yeah, I'm going to take Arizona State as well in that game. I just think they get it. They keep it trucking. Fall off there. And then we talked about the California at Oregon game. Oregon 13.5-point favorites. They get it done there in Eugene. Saturday we have. Well, let me not skip San Diego State. They play San Jose State. That's a Friday night game. Saturday, UCF at Cincinnati. Cincinnati is 21-point favorites there. I don't think UCF has a shot, so we're not even going to talk about that matchup.
Yeah, no.
We spoke about Oklahoma State and Texas, Michigan, Indiana. Texas A&M, we hit on them lightly. They play at Missouri. They're 9-point favorites. I like Missouri in that matchup against the number. You know how I am with bounce backs. If I had an upset pick, that would be my pick right there. What are your thoughts? Quick thoughts on that game?
Yeah, no, I do like Missouri the number. I do like Texas to win the football, or A&M to win the football game. But I do think Missouri makes it very interesting.
Missouri has won 5 of the last 6 games against Texas A&M. Mook. So, little note. So Florida, they are on the road. They are 10.5-point favorites against LSU. We talked about LSU. I don't think they have a shot here. Would it surprise me if they actually held on tight and maybe won this game late? No, because that's the SEC. A lot more high-scoring games than you would imagine. So this would go one of two ways. It's either going to be a blowout by Florida, or it's going to be a very close game because LSU is actually, let me read this. They are 21-4 in their last. They're straight up 21 out of 25 games at home they've won, and they're actually 4-1 straight up in their last 5 games at home against Florida. Quickly, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I would not say that there's no chance with all the talent LSU has out there, but with everything else going on, and the fact that Florida can play some pretty good defense on top of it, I would definitely go Gators. I don't know if they'll cover the spread, but I'm going to definitely say the Gators in that one.
Yeah, shout out to LSU and Mr. Butte, their receiver. Butte, yes.
Oh yeah,
really good. They used to have a quarterback, John David Butte.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know you remember him. Auburn, they are on the road facing number 17, Arkansas. Arkansas, they are 3.5-point favorites. I think Arkansas gets the job done here. Mook, what do you think?
Yeah, after watching that last game with Arkansas, I think that they'll be prepared. But once again, man, Auburn is not going to be one to back down from it. I'll take Arkansas though.
Okay, nice. Seems like you were kind of going towards the Auburn side, but you were drugged back in. So
yeah, that whole War Eagle thing, man. I started watching it soar through my brain, and I was like following it, but then I went back to the, Suey Pig. So
yeah, started thinking with your head instead of your heart. Back in the Big Ten, team we talked about, Iowa, number 2 Iowa. They are at home against Purdue. They are 11.5-point favorites. Purdue is 5-0 against the spread in this matchup, but Iowa has won their last 5 games at home. Quickly, Iowa wins this. Purdue does not have enough offense, especially not against that Iowa defense that is one of the top 3 defenses in the nation. And then I got to give a shout out to Riley Moss, the cornerback for Iowa, who now I feel like has like 4 or 5 picks on the season. And let's be honest, Mook, you don't see a lot of DBs that kind of look like him. He reminds me of the young Jason Sehorn, if you remember.
Yeah.
Him. So
yeah, no,
he reminds me of that. So shout out to that young man. I got a big smile on my face for you, man. Keep balling.
I definitely think that he's a playmaker, and that Iowa defense are playmakers. But what's it? George Karlaftis, is that the defensive end for Purdue?
Sure.
He's an animal. He's an animal. He's going to give them problems. He's going to give Iowa some big time problems. I think that Iowa's going to win this game without a doubt. But I think.
But you like Purdue to keep it close.
I think the Boilers are going to make it interesting.
Okay. Keep your eye on that game. Yeah.
This seems like the kind of sleepy game that that Iowa stumbles with. I mean, not saying that they're going to lose this game, but it could be a little bit tricky for them, I think.
I will say this. I could definitely see that happening. This is a 3:30 kickoff, so this is what I start to think about. Towards the second half, fourth quarter of that game, it's going to be a night game in Iowa. And you know how spooky things happen in Kinnick. Kinnick is, every week I say it, this is one of my favorite places to play. It was totally awesome playing there. The fans are wild, man. Gus Johnson, he did a wonderful job in the Penn State Iowa game last week calling that, man. That was fantastic to hear. I got Iowa winning this matchup as well. I think I already said that, but I now that I'm leaning towards what you're saying. I think Purdue does keep it close. Next, ranked matchup, 2 ranked teams, Kentucky, number 11, Kentucky. They are on the road against number 1, Georgia. Georgia, they are 23.5-point favorites here. Kentucky keeps it within that number. There's no way I'm not going there. I believe in the little engine that could, which is Kentucky. So I'm taking Kentucky in this game to cover the number. And for an upset, why not? Why not? Why not? I think what Kentucky has going on, they can definitely get it done. Does it actually happen? That I do not know. I don't want to get cold feet, but
yeah,
you can't tell me that Georgia's beating them by almost 4 scores.
No, I don't think Georgia's going to be by 4 scores. I think that I definitely am going with Georgia. I think they have that, that Bama just lost, like let's hit that, throttle.
That's a great point.
But
that's a great point.
But you know what though, man? I wouldn't say I've doubted Kentucky, but they've shown me that they are, a legitimately good football team. Yeah. And I see it. They're a tough team. They're a well-coached team. I think that they're going to get beat decisively. I don't think they're going to get their doors completely blown off. But then again, I guess there's that other side of it where, now Georgia, you are the number 1 team. Are you going to slip up? We'll see. Georgia hasn't been, they haven't had the reputation for holding on to the top spot very long when they get there between Mark Richt and,
Yep.
and, Smart.
Yep.
So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. But I do
Georgia
like the
has
Bulldogs.
I love it, man. Yeah, I'm glad I keep you around as a sense of calmness and a sense of mind, because they, being Georgia, have won the last 5 games against Kentucky. So that's that. Number 19 BYU, who was upset by Boise State last week. We also called that. They face Baylor. Baylor is actually 6-point favorites at home, and they're unranked, and they're obviously playing the number 19 BYU. That's always tricky, but give me BYU to win that game. Alabama, 17-point favorites against Mississippi State. Yeah, I think you can catch Alabama, on one of the few off weeks that you'll ever get. So 17 points, I think they more than cover that against Mississippi State. Any quick thoughts there, or we can move on to this?
No, just going back just briefly to the BYU Baylor. I didn't know the point spread on it, and that's why I took Baylor as my upset of the week in that one. But seeing that they're the favorite in that, I guess that's not really an upset of the week. And then Bama, I think they're going to angry Crimson Tide team. Playing down, Starkville is not easy, but I think that they definitely pull away. They put it on Mississippi State late.
Yep, down in Stark Vegas. There you go. TCU at number 4, Oklahoma. Oklahoma, they're 13-point favorites there. I think Oklahoma keeps it rolling. Like who their quarterback will be, I don't know, but they got 2. The old saying, if you got 2, you have none. I think you got 2 at Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley. You got 2.
Yeah, that doesn't really go for there, but yeah.
Number 13, Ole Miss. They play at Tennessee. That's actually one of the games that I'm looking at. I'm like, hey, that looks potential of an upset. Only a 3-point number there. Tennessee can run the ball, man.
Yeah.
Like, they can ground and pound you to death. Ole Miss, obviously, they can score. I like Tennessee to win this game. Why not? NC State, unless you want to hit on that, Mook.
I'm going that with my most points game. I do have Ole Miss, but I'm going to go with most points in that one.
See, do you think Tennessee, and they've been going more up-tempo, do you think they match the up-tempo speed that is Ole Miss? Because they can run the ball, so they can be a little more methodical if need be.
Yeah, I think that they can try to be methodical with it, running the ball, but I think that they're going to break some big runs, and even trying to be methodical are going to accidentally score some points. Ole Miss isn't quite playing the defense that I think that Lane Kiffin was hoping that they would be improved at. But
I agree with you.
Making it very interesting. And I do have Ole Miss, but man, I wouldn't be shocked if Rocky Top is, everybody's partying, tearing down goalposts. So,
and I wouldn't be shocked, like you said, that this is a high total. It hits a number. You don't be shocked if this gets to the 70s or 80s. The way these teams play, man. And again, the SEC this year, been a lot of excitement, a lot of fun. They brought us a lot of great moments, but they're not playing a lot of great D, excluding outside of Georgia. So that's that. That is a wrap for the show this week. A little different, but I like the groove, man. You were nice and smooth, Mook. You helped me out in some dry spots, where I wasn't able to get the info, man. But you're right on time with everything you're doing. So I humbly thank you for always joining me, always talking college ball. You love it just like I love it, man. And I'm thankful to have you, man. And I'm thankful for the fans to have you as well. So thank you, my brother.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's so much fun. I love talking football, man.
All right. From us to you, this is me, Coach T. Show us love, and we'll keep giving you that fun. Peace.